Elias had always been curious, not just about the stars above or the strange machines that hummed in the city, but about people, especially those who were different. The colony on Lyria 7 was a mix of humans and aliens, and most humans stayed close to their own kind. But Elias, he could not help but watch. He walked along the narrow streets of Sector 9 where the neon lights reflected off the wet metal walkways. The air smelled of oil and rain, and faintly of spice from the alien market nearby. He ducked under an archway and froze. Across the street, a group of Nathari moved gracefully, their long limbs gliding in ways humans could never match. Their skin shimmered softly in different colors. Some were blue, some green, and others flickered between shades like a living rainbow. And then he saw her, Lyra. She stood apart from the group, her eyes wide and alert, her skin a soft silver that pulsed faintly with light. Every time she blinked or moved her fingers, the color on her arms and neck shifted. Elias's heart raced. He had never seen anything like it. To him it looked like a story being told without a single word. Curiosity pulled him forward. He ducked behind a crate, keeping a careful watch. Lyra laughed, a sound like soft bells, and her skin rippled gold and pink. Elias's eyes widened. This was more than beauty. It was language. For hours he watched. He took notes in his small notebook, sketching the patterns of her colors. He noticed that when she smiled, the gold spread across her cheeks. When she frowned or looked worried, soft blues and purples appeared along her shoulders. Elias had always been fascinated by alien languages, but this was different. No one else tried to understand the Nathari's skin. Humans whispered and called them strange. But Elias, he felt a strange connection, like the colors were calling to him, asking to be understood. The next day he returned to the same street. Lyra was there again, but this time she noticed him. Her eyes met his for a moment and her skin flickered silver and white. Elias froze. He didn't mean to stare. Slowly he raised his hand in a cautious greeting. She tilted her head and stepped back. Elias noticed her skin shift to darker shades, black and navy, colors he had seen only when she was afraid or cautious. He realized something important. He was an intruder in her world. But he could not stop watching. Over the next week he followed her from a distance. He learned the times she left her home, where she went, and the people she met. He even began sketching more detailed charts of her skin patterns, trying to match them to her actions and expressions. It was slow work, like learning a new language from scratch, but Elias was patient. He had always been patient. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Elias saw something that changed everything. A small crowd had gathered near the market. Lyra was there, speaking with another Nathari, and suddenly a group of humans approached. They were older boys, rough and loud, with sneers on their faces. "You don't belong here," one of them shouted. "Go back to your shiny towers." Lyra's skin flashed bright red and orange. Elias knew that meant fear mixed with anger, but she did not run. Instead, she stood tall, her eyes scanning the crowd. The humans laughed, and one of them stepped closer. Elias's heart pounded. He wanted to help her, but he had no idea what to do. Then, as if on instinct, he stepped forward and called out, "Leave her alone." The boys turned. Elias's voice was small, but there was a strange courage in it. Lyra's skin pulsed gold and white. Trust, he realized. She was watching him, noticing him, and in that moment Elias understood something crucial. The colors were not just expressions. They were invitations. The boys hesitated, confused by the humans stepping in. Elias's legs trembled, but he stood firm. Finally, muttering insults, they left. Lyra's skin softened into gentle pinks and lavenders, colors Elias had not seen before, relief and gratitude. After the crowd dispersed, Lyra looked at him silently. She did not speak. Humans and Nathari rarely spoke to each other directly, and Elias had no words anyway, so he nodded awkwardly and offered a small smile. Her skin shifted to silver again. Then faintly, it pulsed with a pattern he had never seen before, a soft spiral across her arm. Elias felt a thrill. He didn't know what it meant, but he wanted to learn. That night he sat in his small room, notebook open. He sketched her colors again, comparing them to the expressions he had seen. His fingers trembled as he wrote notes. Gold, joy. Red, anger. Blue, fear. Lavender, relief. Spiral, curiosity or invitation. He realized something extraordinary. He could learn this language. Not the words, but the feelings, the messages hidden in color and movement. And if he really understood her skin, he could communicate in a way no human ever had before. For days, he practiced alone, mimicking the gestures of Nathari he had seen on the streets, imagining the colors on his own skin. It was strange at first. Human skin could not change color like theirs, but he could remember the patterns. He could visualize them. He could imagine what each color meant. Then, one day, he saw her again in the quiet of the market. He approached slowly, careful not to startle her. Lyra's skin flashed with hesitation, deep navy, but Elias stepped closer. He raised his hand again, this time slowly moving his fingers in gestures he had observed the Nathari using. Her eyes widened. The color on her arms shifted in spirals of silver and soft gold. Elias's heart leapt. She was responding, not with words, but with understanding. They were communicating in the only way they could. From that moment, Elias's life changed. He no longer just watched. He learned. Every day he studied her colors, trying to understand the subtle changes in shades, the pulses of light across her skin. And with each passing day, he realized that Lyra was teaching him something humans had forgotten. That language was more than words. Language was feeling, connection, empathy. Elias did not know what the future held. He knew there would be obstacles. Humans were still wary of the Nathari, and some would never accept the idea of a human understanding an alien in this way. And there were dangers, unknown, unseen, lurking in the city and beyond. But Elias did not care. He had found a path, and it began with her skin. That night, as he looked at the stars from his window, Elias felt a strange sense of hope. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers, but he had found something precious, a language no one else had tried to speak, a connection no one else could understand. He smiled, gripping his notebook tightly. One day he would learn the full language of her skin, and when he did, nothing, not prejudice, not fear, not distance, could keep them apart. For now, he would watch. He would learn, and slowly, color by color, pulse by pulse, he would step into her world. Elias woke before dawn. The first light of Lyria 7 crept across the city, painting the tall towers in shades of gold and rose. He held his notebook close, filled with sketches and observations of Lyra's ever-changing skin. Today, he decided, he would try something different. He would not just watch her from a distance. He would try to understand her. The market was quiet in the early hours, save for the soft hum of machines and the occasional clink of metal crates. Elias slipped between stalls, careful to avoid anyone's notice. And there she was, Lyra, sitting near a fountain of glowing water, her silver skin faintly pulsing as the water reflected on her arms. Elias took a deep breath. He stepped closer. His hand moved slowly, mimicking the gestures he had seen her make when speaking with other Nathari. He tilted his head slightly, trying to match the rhythm of her movements. Lyra looked at him. Her eyes widened. Her skin shifted, soft lavender spreading across her shoulders mixed with faint gold spirals. Elias's heart leapt. It was the first real response he had seen. Not fear, not caution, but curiosity. He spoke, though he knew she would not understand the words. I want to learn. Lyra's skin pulsed brighter, gold and silver rippling across her arms. It was as if she had heard him. Elias realized that for her, words were not important. What mattered was attention, patience, and care. For the next few hours, Elias simply watched. He noted the way her colors changed with every emotion. When she laughed, soft pink spread over her arms. When she frowned at a clumsy street merchant, deep blue and green appeared along her neck. And when she looked at him, the spirals, those mysterious golden spirals, flashed softly, inviting him closer. Days passed, and Elias grew bolder. He tried small gestures he had learned from observing her. A slight tilt of the head, a wave of his fingers, a bow of respect. Lyra responded. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, she began to include him in her small routines. A smile here, a glance there, her colors pulsing in response to his attempts. One evening, a storm rolled over the city. The sky darkened and rain pelted down, washing over the neon lights. Elias ran through the streets, slipping on wet metal, until he found Lyra standing under the edge of a building, trying to stay dry. Her silver skin was almost dull under the gray clouds, But faint flashes of color danced along her arms as the wind and rain hit her. Elias rushed over and held his coat above her. She looked up at him, startled. Her skin glowed with a mix of lavender and soft blue. Gratitude, he guessed. Elias smiled and nodded, unsure if she would understand the human gesture, but willing to try anyway. From that day, Elias's learning changed. He realized that understanding Lyra was not just about observing her. It was about acting with care, noticing the smallest details and responding thoughtfully. He began keeping a detailed chart in his notebook, mapping every color, every pulse, and every movement. Gold, happiness. Blue, fear. Lavender, trust. Red, anger. Purple, curiosity. He even began guessing combinations when the colors overlapped. One afternoon, a new challenge appeared. A group of young humans, rough boys from his neighborhood, decided to harass the Nathari children playing near the park. Elias saw them approaching and froze. Lyra's skin flashed bright red, then dark blue, signaling fear. Elias ran forward. "Stop!" he shouted. The boys turned, surprised to see Elias. "Why are you protecting them?" One sneered. "Because it's wrong," Elias said, his voice steady even though his heart was racing. "Leave them alone." Lyra watched silently, her skin pulsing with soft gold and silver spirals. Elias realized she was watching not just the boys, but him, assessing whether he could truly act with courage. The boys hesitated, unsure what to do. Elias's words and presence were enough. They muttered insults and walked away. Lyra's skin shifted to soft lavender, relief washing across her shoulders. Elias smiled, feeling a new sense of pride. He understood now that her language was not only about emotions, but also about trust. He had earned a small part of it. From that day, Lyra began to include him in more subtle ways. She would flash a spiral on her arm when she wanted him to follow, or shift her colors gently to indicate something he should notice. Elias was learning to interpret these messages. Slowly, carefully, he began responding. One evening, they sat near a small fountain in the quiet of the city. Elias tried something bold. He held out his hand and gently touched her arm. Not too hard, not too soft, just enough to feel her warmth. Lyra's skin pulsed instantly, gold and silver spirals dancing across her shoulders. Elias felt a thrill run through him. It was the first time he had communicated with her in a way beyond observation. Touch, combined with understanding, was a bridge between their worlds. Weeks passed. Elias's notebook grew thick with charts and sketches. He could now predict many of her reactions before they happened. He could guess when she was happy, anxious, or curious. And she in turn began to respond to his gestures more openly. The distance that once existed between human and Nathari began to shrink. But learning was not easy. There were misunderstandings. One day, Elias misread a pattern and interpreted her fear as anger. He spoke too loudly, startling her, and her skin flashed deep red and black. He stepped back, apologizing silently. Lyra's colors softened gradually. She forgave him, but he knew he had to be more careful. Through these trials, Elias realized something important. Understanding Lyra's skin was not just a skill. It was about empathy. He had to feel what she felt, see what she saw, and respect her in ways humans rarely did. Then came the first true test. A rogue faction of Nathari, discontent with human presence in the colony, began to stir unrest. They approached the market one evening, shouting and waving strange devices that emitted light and sound. Lyra's skin flared in rapid, chaotic colors: fear, confusion, alarm. Elias's heart pounded. He remembered the lessons he had learned: patience, observation, empathy. He took her hand gently and guided her to a quieter alley, speaking softly even though she might not understand the words. Her skin began to settle, colors calming as she trusted him to lead. Together, they found a small safe space hidden from the chaos. Lyra's skin shifted from frantic reds and blues to soft lavender and gold spirals. Elias realized, with a surge of hope, that he could communicate not just in simple patterns but in complex feelings. He could guide her, reassure her, and even protect her. That night, as they watched the twin moons rise over the city from a quiet rooftop, Lyra turned to him. Her skin shimmered in a pattern Elias had never seen before: soft, spiraling gold and silver mixed with faint violet. He felt a wave of understanding, almost like a sentence spoken without words. "I trust you." Elias smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. He had come so far, from a boy watching from the shadows to someone Lyra relied on, someone who could understand her in ways no other human could. And yet he knew this was only the beginning. The language of her skin was vast and infinite, full of subtle expressions and emotions he had yet to decode. He opened his notebook, adding a final note for the night. Trust, patience, empathy, connection, every color, every pulse tells a story. Learn, understand, protect. Elias looked at Lyra seated beside him, her silver and gold spirals glowing softly in the moonlight. He realized something he had never felt before. Learning her language was not just about understanding her. It was about becoming a better human. Her world, her colors, her emotions were teaching him something no human school ever could. And Elias knew, deep in his heart, that he would follow this path, no matter the dangers, no matter the challenges. He would learn the language of her skin, because some connections were worth more than words, and some bonds once formed could change the course of the future. The city of Lyria 7 buzzed with tension. Rumors of the rogue Nathari faction had spread through the colony. Humans whispered fearfully in the streets, and even some of Lyra's own people avoided crowded areas. But Elias did not feel fear, at least not in the way others did. He felt a sense of purpose. He had learned to read Lyra, to understand the colors that spoke her emotions, and now he knew it was time to act. He found Lyra at the quiet fountain where they often met. Her silver skin shimmered faintly, but streaks of deep red and dark blue flickered across her arms. Elias frowned. Danger, worry, alarm. The rogue faction had been spotted near the northern district. Are you ready? Elias asked softly, though he knew words were not the language she trusted most. He extended his hand. Lyra's eyes widened. Her skin pulsed gold and silver spirals, the pattern Elias now understood as acknowledgement and readiness. She took his hand, and for a moment the world outside seemed to fade. Two beings, different species, different worlds, stood together, united by understanding, trust, and a bond stronger than words. They moved quickly through the streets, careful to avoid crowds. Lyra led the way, her skin pulsing with subtle colors that guided Elias like a living map. He followed, reading the language she had taught him without even realizing it. The flicker of red, the wash of blue, the spiral of gold, each was a signal, a direction, a warning. When they reached the northern district, chaos awaited. Small groups of rogue Nathari were trying to intimidate humans, their devices sending blinding flashes and loud sounds through the air. The humans scattered, fear in their eyes. Lyra's skin flared wildly, alarm, panic, fear. Elias took a deep breath. He had learned to act, not react. He gestured to Lyra to stay back and stepped forward, raising his hands in calm gestures. Slowly, carefully, he approached the closest rogue. The alien's skin pulsed red, anger and aggression flashing across every inch of its body. Elias remembered what he had learned from Lyra. Emotions could be mirrored, acknowledged, and calmed. He lowered his hand slightly, then mirrored the rogue's stance in a non-threatening way. His heart pounded, but he remained steady. Lyra watched closely. Her colors shifted, gold and lavender spiraling along her arms. Elias realized she was communicating trust. She believed in him. That small confidence gave him courage. To his surprise, the rogue slowed, its red and black patterns dimming slightly. Elias spoke softly, not words of language, but sounds of reassurance and respect. He gestured again, matching movements he had learned by watching Lyra. Slowly, the rogue stepped back, confusion replacing anger. Lyra exhaled, her skin shifting to soft pink and silver, the colors of relief. Elias turned to her and smiled. He had done it. Together they had prevented violence without a single fight, but the danger was not over. Another group of rogues appeared, surrounding a small cluster of humans trapped near a plaza. Lyra's skin flared with frantic colors, red, blue, purple. Elias could almost hear the words in the patterns. Help them. Quick. Be careful. He took her hand, and together, they ran toward the plaza. Elias moved confidently now, reading the colors as instructions. Gold meant courage, blue meant caution, spirals meant direction. Lyra's guidance was clear, and Elias followed without hesitation. They reached the humans who were frozen in fear. Elias gestured calmly, directing them toward safety. Lyra stayed close, her skin pulsing reassuring colors with each movement. The humans moved slowly, hesitant at first, but Elias's gestures and Lyra's colors created a rhythm they could trust. By the time the rogue group noticed them, Elias and Lyra had already guided everyone to safety. The rogues flared in frustration, but Elias did not panic. He raised his hands in non-threatening motions and mirrored their stance again. Lyra's skin glowed, gold spirals expanding across her arms as if cheering him on. The rogues paused, confused by this human and Nethari duo who acted in perfect harmony. Without warning, the faction retreated, disappearing into the shadows of the northern district. Elias exhaled, relief washing over him. Lyra's skin shifted to gentle lavender and soft silver, calm, trust, and gratitude. They sat together on a quiet rooftop overlooking the city below. The neon lights reflected in the puddles of rain, and the hum of the machines created a soft rhythm that matched the pulsing of Lyra's skin. Elias looked at her, feeling something deeper than understanding, connection. You did it, Lyra said softly, her voice like music to his ears. Though he understood the words, it was the colors that spoke more clearly. Gold spirals and soft silver danced across her arms. Trust, pride, happiness. Elias smiled. No, we did it. Together. Lyra tilted her head and her skin shifted in spirals he had never seen before. Complex, layered, almost like sentences written in light. Elias studied them carefully, interpreting the emotion. Joy, relief, recognition, and invitation. He realized then that learning her language was more than just understanding colors. It was about trust, courage, empathy, and respect. Each emotion she showed was a lesson, and he had learned well. Over the next few days, the bond between Elias and Lyra deepened. They spent hours together exploring the city, sharing quiet moments and practicing communication. Elias could now read her emotions with ease, and he responded in ways that mirrored her feelings. Gold met gold, silver met silver, lavender met lavender. Their connection became a dance of light and emotion. The colony began to notice. Humans and Nethari alike watched in quiet amazement as Elias and Lyra moved together, communicating without words, solving problems, and bridging the gap between two very different species. They became a symbol of hope, proof that understanding and empathy could overcome fear and prejudice. One evening they sat at the observatory, watching the twin moons rise in the sky. The stars sparkled above, distant and mysterious. Lyra's skin shimmered silver and gold, spirals of violet threading through the pattern. Elias reached out and touched her hand gently. Her colors shifted instantly, bright and warm, and he felt the message clear in his mind. I trust you. I choose you. Elias's heart swelled. He had come so far, from a boy watching from the shadows to someone who could truly understand and protect another being. He had learned a new language, yes, but more importantly, he had learned the power of empathy, courage, and connection. He squeezed her hand gently, his skin flushing slightly under the moon's light. Not from color change, but from emotion he could not hide. Lyra's spirals shimmered brightly, and he knew they were in perfect harmony. Thank you, he said softly, for trusting me. Lyra's colors shifted to a soft gold spiral, then silver, then violet. Elias could read the words without hearing them. No. Thank you for learning, for understanding, for caring. For the first time, Elias realized that learning her language had changed him. Humans had always been capable of empathy, of understanding, but he had never truly experienced it until now. Lyra had taught him that connection was not about words, or even actions alone. It was about seeing, feeling, and responding with care. The city below remained bustling, unaware of the small, powerful bond forming above it. But Elias and Lyra did not need the approval of the world. They had found something rare and precious, a language that transcended species, a connection that could not be broken by fear or prejudice. And as the moons rose higher, casting their silver light across the observatory, Elias knew one thing clearly. No matter what challenges lay ahead, rogue factions, fearful humans, or distant stars, they would face them together. He had learned the language of her skin, yes, but more importantly, he had learned the language of trust, courage, and love. And in that language, they were fluent.